When a brand built on emotion loses its story, it also loses its dominance. Good morning, we're Good Solution. I'm Kylie.
I'm Cole.
I'm Marco.
I'm Stephanie.
I'm Venica.
And we're here today to propose to you our great solution. Now we will go through our agenda. Strategic context will start with an introduction, then we'll go through our problem definition, a summary of recommendations, a decision criteria and matrix on how we got to those recommendations, descriptions of our recommendations 1, 2, and 3, our implementation plan, risks and mitigation, and finally a conclusion. So, strategic context. Before 2020, you had an emotional storytelling model. You had a category offensive strategy with athlete-focused teams and strong retail partners. After 2020, things shifted. Donahoe pivoted Nike to a direct-to-consumer and digital model, and brand preferences dropped in the US 6%, and the market cap dropped $28.41 billion. Now we'll go over a TOES analysis. So, for example, your strength of past iconic branding can be capitalized by the opportunity of rising athleisure. The opportunity of increase in tech development can help mitigate the weakness of weakening brand identity. The threat of competitor growth can be mitigated through the strength of past iconic branding, and the weakness, retail retreat, might be worsened by the geopolitical supply risk. So we need to make sure our solution helps with that. We are Good Solution, as I said, and we are from the Smith School of Business at Queen's University, and we're here today to help you solve your core problem. But what is your core problem? I'll pass it over to Stephanie to explain.
Nike's problem is that recent management has pushed Nike away from its roots as a storytelling wholesale company, drastically reducing the brand's reliability as the dominant voice in sport. The shift to direct-to-consumer and data-driven marketing has diluted the brand.
Now Cole will summarize the recommendations.
Thank you very much, guys. So looking at our 3 recommendations, our first recommendation is Nike taking a hybrid approach to solving their brand dilution problem, and then we'll move on how they can actually implement it, talking about our second recommendation, Orsis, the beginning of stars, and then our third recommendation, talking about athleisure in China.
So now I'll pass it over to Venica to explain the decision criteria and the matrix.
So now more about how we actually got to those solutions. We judged them based off of 4 key criteria. First off, coming at brand loyalty, which weighs at 15% of our total solution. Now, brand loyalty just judges how the solution will deepen long-term customer attention. Next, we're judging sustainable competitive advantage, which weighs at 25% of our solution. And this just judges how it creates a long-term edge and differentiable and unique brand image for Nike that isn't easily replicable by other competitors. Next, we're judging profit, and this comes at 25% of our solution, and this just judges how the solution has potential to drive revenue growth while cutting costs such as the inventory risk that we had previously. And lastly, we have brand equity protection, which comes at 35% of our solution, and this just judges how we preserve and enhance our identity and our reputation while maintaining brand consistency. Now, before we get into our actual centered solutions, we need to decide an approach we're going to apply to them. And we judged in between the original, more wholesale storytelling approach and Donahoe's direct-to-consumer and digital approach, and a hybrid approach. And the hybrid approach ended up actually taking the win by having a score of 95% because it actually enhances and optimizes the qualities of the original and Donahoe's approach. And this is what we'll apply to our actual solutions. Now, for actual solutions, we decided in between consumer customization, connecting online and in-person shopping, North American storytelling, and expanding into China with Chinese athleisure. And we decided to go with the latter 2 because they met our 4 criteria the most.
Now Cole and Stephanie will dive into our 3 recommendations.
Thank you. So after delving into this case, we believe that overall, Nike should take a hybrid approach to solve their brand dilution problem. We believe and we agree with some of Donahoe's approach that stemmed from kind of more modernizing and digitalizing Nike's actual brand image. However, Nike's advantage was never actually technology. Their biggest asset was always the emotional connection and the emotional storytelling you got when you went to their stores and when you bought their product. By combining Donahoe's approach with this emotional storytelling approach, we believe that this will perfectly mimic consumers' real behavior and bring a competitive moat back into Nike's business to perfectly mimic real brand behavior.
Our first specific recommendation is Orsis, or the beginning of stars. For this recommendation, we want to capitalize on the power of up-and-coming athletes. Up-and-coming talent has an ability to connect with consumers in a way that the superstars really can't. They exist in a gray area where they're more relatable to the average person, but still have an essence of superpower. For this, we will partner with smaller stars that require smaller paychecks for the partnership, such as Sophie Degetti, the Canadian women's rugby captain. and appealing to the Canadian sense of national pride. For this is some of the marketing markups for Instagram. We want to keep going with the data-driven marketing that Donahue introduced, so using social media as the primary marketing platform. Our second partnership we recommend is with Gavin McKenna. He's a Canadian athlete who is currently competing in the US for an American college. So this would be building on the NIL deals that the NCAA has allowed. For this, we want to lean into what makes a champion. We want to do a live stream on the Nike app to bring people to the app and get more eyes on Nike product. And here is some marketing mock-up for his partnership.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now moving on to our third recommendation, PlayOn, expanding into China. Now, why did we choose China? We chose China because it has a huge potential for growth, and it's an untapped market that not really all the global known sports names such as Adidas, Puma, or even us have even looked into. Now we want to expand into this because China has a high demand market, it's very fashion forward, and the way we're going to do this is not by just bringing forward our global collections to China. We want to actually make sure we introduce cultural relevancy, because that is what will drive our success. We're going to do so by creating styles tailored to Chinese fashion preferences, such as softer colors, slimmer fits, and clean silhouettes, and delve into the more athleisure focus. Next, we're going to release China exclusive capsules on actual celebrations in China to connect with the audience more. And then lastly, what we're going to do is collaborate with an actual Chinese designer who's very well known and renowned in the streetwear, athleisure focused space called Uma Wang. Now, why Uma Wang? Because Uma Wang is an icon and a pioneer of Chinese fashion, where she's known to bridge Eastern and Western fashion. And this way, we can integrate Nike seamlessly into the Chinese market because she's known for doing this. This will boost local appeal, and it would also match China's premium athleisure trend with Uma Wang's name on it.
Thank you so much, Vedika. Now, these ideas might sound great, but they're only perfect if they're implemented perfectly. So now I will go into our implementation plan. We're going to start with our preparation phase, which will be conducting research and market simulations for both projects. And then we need to secure both partnerships with Sophie DeGoody and the partnership training team, and also Uma Wang, and we need to train our employees. Then we will have our execution phase, where we will develop those athlete stories, we'll align with those athleisure trends, and we'll build that digital model. And then we have our building and growth phase, which will be securing more partnerships, building sports credibility, launching those capsules, emphasizing local culture, and measuring and scaling. And this will lead us to our overall goals. What are those goals? Well, we want to increase our brand loyalty. We want to increase our repeat purchase rate by 8% in 1 year through our hybrid digital. We want to decrease our churn rate by 4% through the emotional connection return, and we're going to measure that annually. Then we have our sustainable competitive advantage. We're going to use our counterfeit incident rate. We want to reduce that 10% year over year. And then our brand trust score, we want that to increase 12% through the Nike app. For profit, we have our net profit margin that we want to increase 2%, and operating profit, we want to increase that 5%. And lastly, brand equity protection. So we're going to do Rio analysis annually through, we want a 5 out of 5 rating for Chinese athleisure and Oris talent by 2027. And then for market share, we want a 3% lift in the China athleisure segment in first year. And now I will pass it over to Marco to go through our risk and mitigation plan.
Thank you. A plan is not without risk. For our recommendations, we identified 4 key risks that may impact our strategies. So the first is athlete image controversies. The second is cannibalization in North American market. Third is the politicization, campaigns, especially international ones. And finally is the supply strain. We will assess the risk through our risk, severity, and likelihood matrix. So for the athlete controversies, it is rated minor and possible. For cannibalization, it is rated moderate but unlikely. Politicization is rated unlikely but significant. And finally, the supply strain is rated significant and possible. So how do we mitigate these? Well, for athlete image, we diversify our endorsements and we do consistent messaging. For cannibalization, we use the sales data to assess where demand is before we launch it. Politicization, we always ensure that our messaging aligns with core brand values. And finally, supply strain, we streamline our low-performing SKUs and improve forecasting and inventory for management systems. Overall, through these 3 key recommendations, we will improve and strengthen Nike's brand loyalty, profit, our competitive advantage, and brand equity protection, which will lead Nike success in the future. Thank you.
We We hope you enjoyed our great solution.
Are there any questions?